Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Great Awakening Generator with me, Rose McNair. And today we are doing Dr. Darag Speaks. And we are joined, obviously, by Dr. Darag Rennie. Hello, Darag. How are you?
I'm very good. Very good. I'm just noticing look really dark.
I think
My
your
background.
background, it's
The,
just the
the, the,
background. It's probably the
the
light. Hmm?
okay, the clouds have just come over.
Yeah, they've just gone past us. Yeah, they hit us down with lots of rain and then they're moving over and you can see the sunlight coming through the clouds again.
All right. So as long
So
as if you can see me, that's okay. Otherwise, I'll turn on the overheads.
you look perfectly fine.
Oh, cool.
So we'll tell you if it gets darker. I'll tell you if it gets darker. So, Derek, today I thought for benefit of our viewers that we would go back and say why. Well, what's the platform we are talking about these topics from? Because last week we talked about something different. We came back from the recess that we had
Hmm.
taken, the short break that we'd taken from doing recordings and putting out episodes, and then we talked about major issues being discussed by or being focused on by minor parties, and it was very focused to the New Zealand election that is taking place next month,
Hmm.
like in two weeks' time here.
Yeah.
This is our national elections, and so we now want to go back to the topics to the subjects we were looking at prior to this. So please tell us again about your book and where these perspectives are coming from.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, the book's called Light, Love, Laws, and Lies. And if people just Google that, and they'll come across that title with my name, Darag, Darag, Rennie. And that'll give you direct access to the book. I made it free online so anyone can read it. And really, it's my journey, through my spiritual journey, believing medicine, meeting gurus in the Himalayas, um, spending time in spiritual process work, and then coming to the point where you're realizing I had diet all wrong. I was a vegetarian for 35 years, 10 years wheat-free vegan. And then in my 50s, transitioned to low carb ketogenic. And then I did that for 10 years. And then now I'm like 90% carnivore. So that journey for me brought up the awakening that how much we'd actually been lied to. That's why light, love, laws, and lies is in there. And there are certain laws that we need to listen out for and pay attention to and learn to live by. And what we eat is a big part of that.
Yes.
But that was kind of like the first lie that really shocked me in the sense that, wow, I was going along life thinking I had everything sussed out. And as I said, I had to eat a lot of humble pie, after, inflammation in my body, then cancer, then being told that my blood fats were bad, and being told to eat less red meat and whole grain and vegetables and fruits. And I thought, how could I do any more of what I've been doing for 35 years? So
Exactly.
that was my kind of wake up call in my 50s. And well, let me see. And then the whole climate thing hit with, Greta, I think she calls herself Greta Thunberg. So it's the way she try to figure out how she pronounces that. And just the way that our emotions have been manipulated. So a lot in the book, I go through all the different emotions: fear, anger, um, guilt we've covered. And those are the key emotions that are actually used to manipulate us. And it's about realizing that's actually happening, but also it's about knowing what to do with emotion, because most people have a certain range of emotion that they're comfortable with, and then other emotions that they're seriously uncomfortable with. And it's the emotions we're uncomfortable with, the ones we tend to sidle along to and nurse. We need to question that. But also the emotions that we tend to be afraid of. Like a lot of people are afraid of being angry or feeling that anger in their body. And then, or they think it's unspiritual or whatever.
Mm,
But that whole resistance to feeling the anger stops you learning the lessons that the anger is trying to teach you. So it's
exactly.
looking at emotions from that kind of context of being willing to experience and feel them all and learn the messages they've got for us and how to communicate them I use this word in a safe and effective way.
I like those words. I was going to say healthy, but I mean, safe and effective way is better. Yes. So today we're coming to this now, the topics in the book, and we're talking today about betrayal, grief, helplessness, and doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Now you say these are short chapters because, well, they're short chapters. So what is your perspective on betrayal, grief, helplessness, and doubt?
Well, I think at the moment, once we realize we're in a game and we're being played, the climate hoax driving us to seriously change our lives. And that's just really, there's a thing that's happening today, isn't it? It was the WHO agenda, the UN Association of New Zealand.
Yes.
They've shifted to an online meeting today.
That's right.
Because they were afraid of the protesters in Wellington. The protesters were just wanting to let them know their thoughts. They're not dangerous radicals.
Yes.
They're ordinary people like you and me. And it's about the UN agenda for accelerating or advancing the 2030 agenda, where they want everybody to stop eating meat. They want people to and if you look at the C40 cities, I don't know if you know, but Auckland is in the C40 cities. I think it's c40.org.
Mm-hmm.
Look that up. But just Google C40 cities, Auckland, and look at what they plan for us. And things like no personal cars by 2030, no meat, and only 3 new items of clothing a year. And that's for the top level C40 cities. And so people.
And so this is based on what climate? Because the more we are consuming, the more we affect the environment. It's
based on the lies of the climate that CO2 is a big bad meanie, rather than a health food for plants. It is the basic nutrition for plants. Water, carbon dioxide, and sunlight is fundamental nature. That's what creates life. And without plants, we have no life.
Yeah. So, Darag, I don't mean to be rude and stop you there now. I just want we're going to come back to that because, of course, we have to talk about that. Right.
So,
but the reason give us the basics of these concepts, and then we'll go into that.
The basics. You mean the emotions or the?
Yeah, the emotions. We're talking about betrayal,
grief, and helplessness. Yes. Let's handle those 3, and then we'll finish off with doubt.
Yes.
So until we realize we're being betrayed, we're lost. All we can do is go along with the narrative. There is the Great Reset is the narrative that life needs to change because humans are destroying the planet. And they've trotted out all these experts to prove that, but there's as many experts actually that say, no, that's actually incorrect. Yes, we need to handle pollution, but CO2 is not a boogeyman, it's actually a health food. So in that sense, it's about coming to realize that we have been lied to and betrayed on so many levels by people that we put our trust in.
Yes.
And in a personal relationship, that might be your wife or having and having an affair, that's a betrayal. And that can be hard. I experienced that myself, and that's hard to deal with. And often you don't want to feel the feeling of betrayal. You don't want to admit that that's really going on. Yeah. So we deny it and avoid the feeling. And that can go on for years. Yeah. And the thing is, we can't afford to let this betrayal go on for years. We need to keep it front and center, and also awake people to it. So it's about waking up to the fact that we are being betrayed and going through that. That will take you through a period of grief, because we have this thought that life is a particular way, and that we, it's just hard. Like we think we're in a happy marriage. It's like if you think of our politicians as our partners, they're supposed to be looking out for us, supposed to be working with us, attentive to our needs, and working for us as a partnership. But instead, they've got another partner. It's called the UN, WEF, and the WHO. And so rather than really focusing on us, they're off having a relationship with those guys.
Yeah.
And those guys
it definitely looks like that from all the things that have been coming out in the media.
Oh, well, it's
things like that.
They're saying it's like that. If you listen to both Luxon and with Hipkins, they're both saying they believe in climate change. And we need to accelerate that. That's what this meeting actually today is with, what's his name? Andrew Bloomfield. Andrew Bloomfield?
Ashley Bloomfield.
Ashley Bloomfield. Looking at how to, bringing in the acceleration of the 2030 agenda.
And you have to wonder why they need to do that. Why do they need to accelerate it? Because it looks like they've managed to they've tried to put a lot of things in. And I probably know, I know the answer to why, but I'm just putting that out there as in, if anybody else was thinking about it, well, you wonder why. Ask yourself why they'd want to accelerate this agenda. I just want to come back to this point of betrayal and that, a betrayal is something, it's not even just about a partner having an affair. It's about, even as a person, you have a relationship with somebody, they may not tell you something. And that can, and depending on how you view the relationship, depending on how you, what that thing is that you weren't told, you can sometimes feel, if somebody, you find out about it, when you find out about it, you think, well, I feel betrayed. Or like, I told you something in confidence, but you told it to somebody else. So you went to the person I was having an issue with that I confided in you about, and you told them, I think that is betrayal. Betrayal doesn't have to just be with another, as an affair, like, in a romantic relationship or whatever. The thing about it is that we've got all this betrayal that goes on. What do we do with it? Do we push it under the carpet? Do we act like it didn't happen? Do we, because you were saying earlier about not, like, we are sometimes afraid to feel anger. So are we able, so it's really betrayal puts us in a position where we really have to be real about ourselves. Now, if you think about the personal situation, I mean, it's grief, it's shock, it's pain, whatever the betrayal is, right? Because obviously when we're saying it's a betrayal, we're obviously feeling that strongly about it. Our response is so important because, quite often people get betrayed, they're in betrayal situations and they say, oh, no, it's okay, that's fine. And that is so unhealthy because it builds up and it builds up and then it blows up. And if you do not deal with betrayal, as in acknowledging it happened, this is how I feel about it, what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
If anything.
And the thing, it needs direct confrontation.
Definitely needs direct confrontation.
Both in ourselves, we need to confront the feeling, because I call it an exquisite pain. And it hurts. But it's about acknowledging the situation, and realizing this doesn't work for me. And so at a deeper level, it's about really helping people access their needs, their real needs, the need that's alive in them, and a need to be respected, to be loved. There's, if you look at the nonviolent communication work, there's a whole list of needs in different categories. And it's about learning in this situation with betrayal, what need is not being met here. Yeah. And it's about making that need become conscious so that then you can act on it.
And I think anytime something like this happens, because you often have situations where people have been betrayed, whether it is, you find women do this a lot. I'm a woman and I'll say this, I don't, but I have seen this happen. I've borne the brunt of this too in my life, where if the husband or the partner goes astray and, goes and have an affair or something like that, it's never his fault. It's actually the fault of the woman. Right. And so the woman gets shunned and beaten up and whatever, beaten up in a verbal way, in an emotional way, or physical way, whatever response person has. And then you think, well, this is never going to stop happening with that man, because clearly the problem, the reason for it is not addressing it with the person who's actually betrayed you, is not because, a woman who goes out with a man who's already in a relationship may not know he's in a relationship because, that's the way of the world, right? But instead of addressing it like that, we just tend to be different. A lot of women tend to do this, where they blame it on the woman who's actually been the third party, whether she did it knowingly or not, or unknowingly. So I feel like quite often when it comes to betrayal, we want to sweep it under the carpet, the cause, the source. And we're just kidding ourselves, really, aren't we?
It just prolongs a problem. And
Repeat.
until we confront it and what we need and want,
Yes.
then you can't move forward.
Yes. So we talked about betrayal, and I've got to look at my notes again. We talked about betrayal, and I think that's so loaded, that topic. We're talking about grief and unattended grief, because when you are betrayed, you feel grief, depending on how your response is. Definitely, isn't it a sadness to know that somebody could have betrayed you, that they could have invited and violated your private space, for example?
Yeah, and it's basically the idea that the life that you thought you had is not there.
Yeah, it's been a big lie.
It's a real loss. There's a loss of a dream, of a vision, of a connection that just wasn't. You realize, I'm not as connected to this person as I thought I was.
Yeah, or what I thought that person was, they're actually not. They told me they are with me on this. We share the same values and we share the same aspirations and dreams, and then suddenly they go and do something that makes you realize, actually, no, we don't. And that's terrible. That is absolutely terrible when you find that out, when you realize it. So there's a lot of grief with that.
Yeah.
And helplessness. We get help. Do we feel helpless?
Well, the reason I put helplessness on there was that when you realize the immensity of the powers that we're dealing with, it can be really easy to go into helplessness.
Yes, I agree.
Now, this is too big for me to handle. So you just curl back into my shell, and I'll just hole up in here like, the hedgehog that curls up waiting for someone who's nasty to go so they can roll again. And it's like, in this situation, that's actually not going to happen.
No.
And so there's a possibility to really disappear in helplessness.
Yeah.
But it's also being willing to realize that that's actually not going to work, and I need to do something. So it's the willingness to learn to take little steps, and that we're more. I think once you discover your needs, all of a sudden you feel more powerful. Because when we're helpless, we often don't even think about our needs. All we know is the need for safety. We just need to know that we need to protect ourselves somehow and avoid getting our heads cut off, and just hunker down and forget it. Just try and disappear. And as much as you try and disappear, that is seriously, there's no disappearing from this one. So it's really, I think what's happening in the world right now is a real lesson in coming out as who we are as people, as individuals, and as members of a society that need to demand truth from our leaders.
Right. I have some things I want to say about that, but I want us to talk about doubt first, and then I'll bring that back in, what I've been thinking about.
That's good, because in the way I see doubt is that there are people that doubt themselves all the time, and they really need to get a handle on that, realize they may actually know more than they do. So it's about realizing what our personal relationship with doubt is. Am I the kind of person that just doubts everything I say? So I need to be like 1,000% sure of something before I'll even talk about it. Or am I the person that has no doubt about what I say, and I'm spouting off all over the place, and I might be spouting complete bullshit, but as far as I'm concerned, it's accurate.
Yeah.
So it's like both sides need to, the doubters that are over the top on doubting themselves need to start to get a bit stronger, and the people that unfortunately don't seem to doubt themselves, they need to actually start questioning their own beliefs.
That's right. Yeah.
You're in either one of those. There's a spectrum in between those. So it's really about getting, so it's not about getting to the middle, it's about getting to the point above that where you can look down on both and see when you're in either camp. Because for all of us, we have certain things we think we're right on, but wow, one day you wake up and think, oh, I had that completely wrong. like me and diet. And then there were things that we actually have a certain level of common sense with, but we don't trust it. We doubt it.
Yeah.
And for me, how doubt can be manipulated, because there's a lot of things about how things can be manipulated, and we are manipulated to doubt ourselves. Look at we all these experts are trotted out, and they're the ones that know. They're our single source of truth. We need to listen to that rather than the sources of the common sense voices that are speaking up to that voice of truth that aren't being heard.
The single source of truth, eh? The single source of truth. My gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm the single source of truth to myself. Thank you. Yes. So I guess what we're saying, as we were talking about before we went to recording, that having these feelings, our response to these feelings of betrayal, fearfulness, grief, doubt, is something to acknowledge that it exists within us, not to sweep it under the carpet, because just because they seem to be low vibrational and have had a negative connotation to it doesn't mean they do not have value, or it's bad to feel like that. It's okay to feel like that, is what we're saying. Acknowledge this is how you feel. And it's like we were saying in one of the other episodes where when we talked about anger, and you said when we talked about how, say, I feel really angry about that. If you're feeling angry about it, say, I feel really angry about that. If you're feeling grief about something, I feel really sad about that. I feel sad that this happened. I feel sad that it happened to me. I feel sad that I was thinking I was on this pathway, but I'm actually not. Because when that person did that, that's what it made me feel. When the person did the betrayal, I realized we're actually not on the same page about this thing that he's been telling me, or she's been telling me, or they've been telling me we're on the same page about, because it's actually not. So it's about acknowledging the feeling and just really saying, okay, this is how I feel, and it's valid. And then move on from, okay, what's next? Do I feel that feeling? Stay there. Stay there for good. Stay there. So you can tell us.
Yeah. I mean, I used to wallow in poor me, and when early on relationships, feeling hurt, things like that. No, you hurt me.
I don't like that.
My mom called it. That's the word, sulking. I was a big sulker.
Yeah.
And so it's but getting back to what you said in terms of, we tend to compartmentalize emotion, and we think it's a positive or negative.
Yeah.
And that can be a real trap in itself. So it's realizing that all emotion is valid, like you said, and learning to get what that emotion is trying to teach us.
Absolutely. It's important to do that.
And that will always come back to which specific need is not being met in a particular situation.
Yeah.
And so once you get that, like I said about, we all have this, spectrum, and we need to go above it. That's what I would call the witnessing state, where you can actually see that, oh, I'm feeling this. There's a book called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, and How to Listen So Kids Will Talk. And a big part of that book is really about helping the child identify its feelings, rather than make them wrong for their behavior, or what are you feeling, if they actually can't put a word to the feeling. And so our job as parents is to help kids put words to feelings. And then once they've got a word there, then they can help them identify the needs underneath. And we need to basically treat ourselves like that child.
Yes.
There needs to be an adult in the room, and the child's running rampant, and we need to help it identify its feelings and learn what they're saying to them. And so until we do that, and once you do that, there's a calm. My experience is that once you really identify the need that's not being met on the situation, there's a calm that happens inside. And from that calmness, you can decide a path of action.
Yeah, I think acknowledgement of the feeling is very important. And it's good that people are doing that more and more these days, because traditionally that was not done. And whilst our parents are great, they didn't know how to do anything different than they were doing it. And hence we have all of this that we have to clear in this time and space, in this great awakening process that we're going through. And it's like we're all having experiences. They're all coming at us. Personally, we're having experiences of, like we're talking about now, betrayal, grief, helplessness, doubt, all that. And then somehow we're dealing with this in some way, shape, or form, whether it's personally or whether it's on a national basis or whether it's on a global basis. It's now hitting us in the face, and it's like, okay, how are you going to deal with it? So it's important to acknowledge within ourselves that this is how we're feeling. So I like that we say that we have to acknowledge, that we have to be truthful about how we're feeling. And I guess from that, we work out how we navigate from there, because it brings clarity when you acknowledge that's how I'm feeling instead of pushing it aside. Then you don't have, there isn't this buildup of feelings, and then now you get to like 10 years later and you're like, I don't know why I can't function. I don't know why I'm feeling all this emotion, all that. I probably need to see a psychiatrist, or whatever I need, or you spend years trying to clear the grief of those things because you just don't know where it started and all of that, because you don't have the memory of it.
Yeah, and the challenge is that people get caught up in the feeling and don't get through it. So it's like swimming in a sea of molasses.
That's right.
And so that's where getting to the need is the key issue to really, like I said, that's when you know what needs to happen next.
So I was going to ask what your recommendations are for navigating current times, but I want to come back to that question because I want to talk about current times. Because as if anyone is not feeling betrayed right now in this world, anyone who consciously not feeling betrayed by people that are meant to be looking after us and taking care of us and all of that, I'm going to be really surprised. And when I say consciously, I'm really talking about the age group, because children, for example, are not aware of this major stuff that's going on in our world, although they must be to some level because they've been affected too, with lockdowns and all of that, right? But as a child, you may not think that as a betrayal. You may not think about the bigger agenda, all of that. But as an adult, you will, or a young adult, you will. So currently, we are being faced right now with, whose report do you believe? I always like to use those words, like, whose report do you believe? So I guess we're in agreement that there's not a lot of reports we can believe, or that we should question every report.
Well, we are, because we can see, but there's the people that can't see that, and I think a big part of that is it's too painful for them to consider that they've been lied to.
I'm really sad you say that.
Yeah.
Because it's saying that these people are going to get back into that mold, into the matrix, if they keep doing this. If they do not have the courage to stand up and say, I think something's not quite right here, and I need to pay attention to it, then I don't know what happens. It means there's a lot of people that's going to be left behind in this. There's going to be a good number of people that are going to give those that are, in powerful positions to continue with the saga.
Yeah, well, that's the challenge with democracy. And basically, we've been educated through our schools. And that's one of the reasons they want 16-year-olds to have the vote, is because their minds are more entrapped in the indoctrination than adult. And therefore, the boomers become a threat.
That's why they want to take the boomers out. Or the X generation.
Especially old white males like me.
Oh, no, I won't say really, because I'm going to have to say, yeah, I think that's true. It's like, because I mean, yeah, there's so many targets. There's so many targets. People are targets for various reasons, right? And I know that is one of the targets. So, did I see a Boots come up there?
That is Boots, yeah. Yeah, here he is.
Hi, Boots. Hello, look at you.
Hello, Boots.
Oh, yes. So what are your thoughts on this, Darag? I mean, like...
Well, I know, I think one of my failings in the past few little while has been I've been demanding too much of people that just can't make that leap. And then it's learning, for me, it's like learning to express my needs in that situation, which is a need for respect and to have other scientists respected. But some people just cannot wake up to the fact that they're being lied to. And so then it's about, well, who can I reach out to? Because anyone who's awake wants to wake up others. And it feels like it's their duty to do that. Once you get out of that helplessness mode. Because if you're in helplessness, all you want to do is hunker down and, and let it all ride over you. And I wrote in my book that one of the chapters, the section from Solzhenitsyn, he says that if we had risen up earlier when they were coming for us all, like I think it was one point they took about a third of a city into a gulag.
Wow.
So everyone was getting shunted away. And so that he said, you know, we should have acted at that point. And so that's kind of the situation we're in now. And we need to speak up. And the powers that shouldn't be are driving, and Jacinda's part of that. The idea that free speech is a weapon and we shouldn't be able to use it. So she wants to curtail free speech. Anyone who disagrees with the narrative should be as a naughty boy and girl. And so if they do succeed in that, in stopping free speech, then we've got a serious problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
and while we still can speak freely, we need to continue to call that out. And I mean, I haven't got any particular answers, and I don't think many of us do, other than continue to speak out and speak out well and speak out loudly. Some people look at the idea of pink pilling people rather than red pilling people. The idea that you can just, you know, and I'm not particularly good at that, but the idea of just dropping little hints and questions rather than hitting people right between the eyes with something.
Yes, I understand. And I have had to work at becoming pink pilling. However, I want to say this in terms of that. I have got to a stage where I no longer have conversations with people in terms of and maybe I'm in this part of avoiding or, you know, whatever, but I will explain this further. I no longer have conversations with people. I'm very observant more of conversations rather than participating in them. And this comes from my guidance system to just be an observer and listen to what is happening. And that's not to say I won't have a voice or I won't state my thoughts if it ever came up, because, you know, I'm never shy to say something like, somebody said something to me last week. I had some people over on radio, and this lady just came out and she said, I hope Trump never gets in. And
so Trump never gets in?
Never gets in. And I said, well, I don't think any of them should get in. That's what I said, because that's really my thought. Because I feel like, just like with us, we've got two major parties. What is one going to do that's different from the other? The last time I heard, if the opposition party gets in, they're going to do exactly what happened they would have done exactly what the government did in the last 3 years, only they would have done it better. And what does that mean?
Yeah. No pension unless you get vaccinated.
That's the one. No benefits from what I heard unless you get vaccinated.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, for me, I just feel like, hey, I don't know that these people that we have there are actually going to do anything. So that was my response to this person. And she was quite taken aback. And the point is, do not believe everything you hear. I have no opinion about Trump, but all I'm saying is, right now, there's a lot more that meets the eye that we are not getting told. Right. And the only time, like, I get told a lot of things from people, my friends overseas. It's never talked about here. Right. Last week.
Things like what?
Stuff like, I'll give you this example. It's just about to give you an example, right? And this is a non-political example. 2 weeks ago, there was an earthquake on the South Island. Was it last week or the week before? 6.2 earthquake, right? But the week before that, it was being reported overseas that there was a 7.2 earthquake in New Zealand, exactly where the 6.2 happened 2 weeks ago.
Well,
my friend in England sent this article to me and she said, Rose, are you okay? There's an earthquake, because she didn't really understand where I am in New Zealand. And I said, actually, I'm perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong where I am. We didn't have any earthquake. We didn't have any shaking. I look at where the map is, and it's like on the South Island. It's very much where, like, south of Nelson, inland from Christchurch, but further south, and exactly around about where this one actually happened. So I look at all online here to see if there's any news reports on it. There's nothing. And I get back to you and I said, I'm really sorry, but no, there's nothing being reported here. So I'm not sure about that news that you've got. And then exactly 7 days later or so, one actually happens. And this too, I looked, she sent me the message. It was reported overseas by the same crowd that did it the week before. And I looked again, and of course, yes, we were reporting that here. I have a friend who lives in that area who I called and said, hey, did you guys have an earthquake? Are you okay? And yes, there was. That he had experienced it. But
and he hadn't experienced the one that was supposedly there a week before him?
Not at all. I have more than one friend on the South Island that I asked, and there was no earthquake.
So that's kind of like Building 7 going down again and reported by the BBC before it actually went down.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I want to say, in terms of this, this is what I mean. And some of the other stuff, I got to hear about that speech by the previous prime minister about free speech being, I'm using my words now, a weapon. I got to hear it from somebody overseas. And that's because I'm not paying attention to anything happening in the mainstream news.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was interesting. Another thing I saw when I took Helen's newspaper down to her the other day was that, and I don't know why, but the Herald reported on this and the business news, that, in, I think, January or February, the one card is coming to an end. They know Countdown's not going to be using that one card, or I think they're not going to have the affiliation with the petrol, with the fuel company or something like that. And so that AA fuel card, that's going to come to an end. So what this report is about, that the card that is going to come is going to be able to track all our spending and where we are.
Okay, right.
So I thought, oh, funny they're talking about it, but okay. But then that's them telling us something. When they tell us something like that, then that's telling us, hey, we told you, we reported that this was going to happen. So I feel like it's a very interesting time. I try not to have conversations with people outright, about their opinion. But if I am faced with something like somebody, like I said, the lady had said, coming back to that about Trump, I will definitely say my thoughts on it. I don't not say my thoughts on it, because I'm not going to agree with you. I don't know enough about it to agree or disagree with you, but I'm just going to say what I know tells me none of them should get in, because how do we trust those people?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's sort of, well, yes, that's America, but a lot of what happens in America happens to us eventually. And in the last 3 years, whatever's been happening here in our political arena, who can say that they wholeheartedly trust any of those people there?
Yeah, and it's like, it's about giving her a bigger picture of what you did. It was saying I wouldn't trust either of them, and it's just realizing that we need to get ourselves out of getting into camps, the red and blue camp.
Absolutely.
Or whatever.
Yeah,
and
there is no them and us. We are all one.
We're all one, and that's where it becomes that we all need to connect with that deep spirit within. Because to the extent we're feeling afraid of it, then we're lost.
Yeah.
And to the extent we get caught up in any emotion that prolongs in us, and we lose touch with the love, peace, and joy within.
Yeah.
And it's about bringing that to bear. And it's only when you get to clear on your needs and clear on your connection to spirit that you can actually enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean to say you're not going to be furious at times, and express that in ways that work, safe and effective ways.
The divine is okay with us having negative emotions. It's what we do with it that's important. It's being human, right? To feel anger, to feel doubt, to feel restlessness, to feel helplessness, it's human. How can we deny the humanity that we are?
And I think we need to stop calling them positive and negative.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like stop talking about light and dark, because there's a light that's beyond light and dark. Light and dark, negative and positive are all parts of polarity, but the inner experience of how you're feeling is not a polarity.
Yeah.
It's a universal desire to make us aware of our needs and our connection to spirit. That all emotion, it's like all roads lead to Rome. All emotions can lead to that.
All emotions can lead to the divinity of self. Yes.
Yeah.
So, anything more?
No, I think that's a good place to stop, because it is I call it diabolically interesting times.
Yeah.
And it's our responsibility to keep ourselves present to the divinity within, and to bring that out in our humanity.
And one thing I want to say about it is that speaking out doesn't have to be from a platform of dissension, and it doesn't need to be speaking out does not make people a bad egg. You can do speaking out in love. You don't have to do speaking out where it's hateful and horrible, because we have had that too. And we also must remember that these people that are in power, they have souls too, and they are going through the journey as well. They're not here in human, well, as far as I know. They have souls too, and he's my brother, she's my sister. Think of those things. But we can't let things carry on just for the fact that we're afraid to say something, share our thoughts. We need to have the courage of our convictions. We need to remember that it's about personal sovereignty. And if we can be in tune with the personal sovereignty, then things like betrayal and how we respond to betrayal can be a response from a platform of love and empowerment. So, that's what I think we need to say. It's just important to remember that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Darag, if there isn't anything else, we'll have to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us. And we'll catch you next time here on the Great Awakening Generator. Bye.
Great. Bye.